Voici les liaisons dangereuses. Adapté d'un français, réalisé par un anglais, financé américain. C'est la Projo mondiale avec John Malkovich. Malco, bravo Coco.
Imagine that you are asked to explain the story of Les Liaisons Dangereuses to a guy from, say, Denver. I'd say it's a story about a man who falls in love with two women. He can't decide which one to be with, so he kills himself. How could you say that Valmont was your most important character ever? Usually when I do something on stage or a movie or something, I sort of do it like that and I walk away from it. And this one has very much stayed with me. It's very haunting in a way. It's certainly kind of the biggest part I've done in film, but that isn't very important really. It's somehow altered me in some ways, I think, personally. You and Valmont, what do you share together and what is to divide you? I think we share probably quite a bit in common. It's very easy for me in some ways to draw people into me, in some ways. I think one of the things that would separate us is that I'm much more, I'm hyper conscious of what the effects of my actions are. And Valmont, to some extent, lacks a conscience, I would say. And when he finds his conscience, per se, it kills him. There's a saying in America, the payback is a bitch. About Valmont, you say his life is like that of the rock and roll star, without nobility. He occupies a special position. What I meant by that, in that example, I named sort of several things. He could be really, he could be a rock star, a movie star, a politician, someone in television, someone in music, and anyone who really has a position of power or an elevated status based on myth, really. Based on something that they're not, but something that they appear to be. In other words, the nobility obviously did not have to be, the nobility of this decade were not necessarily the most noble people, and yet they were elevated. And by the same token, a movie star who's very sexy is not necessarily very sexy, really. They may be quite frigid, actually. Or a movie star who seems very sort of tough and whatever might be gay. It's about position or status that is based on false values. After Liaisons Dangereuses, you can now explain to us the difference between love and sex. No. Is your attitude to women different since you have been Valmont? No, if anything, I'd say I'm more terrified by them. What are the best memories you keep from the time the film was shot in France? My room at the Raphael, I think. Why don't you go in the theaters to see the movies? I think usually because I always think I'm watching a movie because they're usually not about anything very interesting. And so it's very difficult for me to concentrate. So I just sort of get up and go to the bathroom or smoke a cigarette or whatever. They're very flat somehow.
Et pour être sûr de ne rien rater de Inarditube, abonnez-vous et mettez un pouce bleu.